Hello, Brian. How are you today?
I'm good, John. How are you?
Excellent. This is a across the pond shared conversation between Brian and myself. And today we're looking at one subject. The subject today is going to be emails. So here we go. Let's talk about emails then, Brian. Where will we
Okay.
find it?
Well, it's right at the top of the interface. We're going to start at the beginning and run down through some things. I guess the key things would be email account setup, forwarders, and I don't know, possibly autoresponders.
Yeah, there's quite a lot there, isn't there?
There is, and I know that this interface can look daunting to people, but you just take it in bite-sized chunks. And, if you don't feel like you have a lot of technical ability, that's why we're doing this. So you can become much more at ease with the actual back end of server management and setting up things so that you don't have to pay somebody else to do it.
Exactly. The catch-22 though is most customers, once they've got a website, will want to go over from their Gmail, Hotmail, or whatever mail they have to their nice, all singing, all dancing email account. Now we've got this very basic setup here today. It's completely clear of email accounts, and this is what we're going to do. We'll go into our first email account. I'm just going to go in there first, click that button, and then I'm going to hand over to Brian.
Okay, so in creating an email account, it's a pretty simple process. All you're going to do is come over to create, click on the create button, and then you're going to get the creation interface. It's not too overcomplicated. It's not too daunting. And there's, you know, I don't really know how you would, but if you would screw something up, we can always go back and change it. There's nothing that's going to end the world here. Okay. So it's important that you're at ease with that, and that, there's, if we were to screw up something when you're doing this, it's completely undoable and you can reverse that effect.
One beauty of this is you'll see the right hand column, we have the number of email accounts that are available. The beauty of this is if you make a mistake on the first one, don't panic because you've got a few left over. So there we go.
Definitely.
Let's type a name in or some details and then try username.
So we'll do Brian,
Yep.
oddly enough. And then what you can do is you can set your password down below. This is what's going to be at the end of the email address. Okay. That's shown right there. So you know what the email is going to look like. If by chance there would be a missing domain, you could click here for help. If you go down in this box, you can either enter your own password or you can generate a password. Common wisdom would probably say, and the server administrators that I know would say, click generate.
Yeah.
Because people notoriously keep and create bad passwords way too long.
Or just type the word password in
Yes,
that tends to be guessed very quickly.
the icon right here, this eyeball, controls if you see it or not. You're setting your own password, or you're setting the password for, a client email. And the clients, to be honest, a lot of times when you're doing this, they will give you a list of emails to set up at once. So you can kind of rock and roll through this, okay, pretty quickly. If you're doing, what I would say would be the 5,000-foot view of this. If there's more details that have to go into this, then you're gonna have to spend a little bit more time doing this. Okay. So also you have this setting right here where I'm clicking the button. You have options for setting up the passwords. Right now it's saying it needs to be a length of 12 characters, and it's setting the rules as to what it can be.
Which means that you, in actual fact, as the administrator or the person creating this, can set the rules having had a conversation with the client.
Exactly. Everything that you do for somebody in the cPanel interface for the server should be done following a conversation with the client.
Yeah.
Okay. Never try to put something in or assume that somebody wants something done a certain way. Always get it preferably in an email and writing. That way you have something to back up why you did the work that you did.
Yes. This is something that's regularly covered by both Web Squadron, Imran, Sadiq, and also other leading influencers and educators on YouTube. So
Definitely.
it's a standard.
So also you have optional, settings below, and you can set storage space limits, things like that, because, emails have attachments on occasion, depending on your business. So, also if you're in a situation, I have my own server, and sometimes there's an extra revenue stream. If somebody's getting a lot of email attachments, there's an opportunity here, both in the server management and cPanel, that gives you an opportunity at a possible revenue stream. And John and I are trying to give back to people that have given to us, in the group, in the Web Squadron group. So, I want you to understand that you have some more options with what we're trying to teach. Okay.
Indeed. So that's
So
great to know about a storage space, because that's something that may be quite influential on storage for maybe large files that you're using. If you're sending nice big file attachments, you maybe need to be talking or need to have that conversation with the client about how the emails are going to be used.
yes. So you have some other options down here for automatically creating folders and not creating them. That's a radio button. So it's either or. And
Yeah.
then you have check boxes here. And the difference between a radio button, just so you know, the UI interface, is that these circular buttons are usually called radio buttons, and it's either or. Okay. If you have a checkbox, it's on or off. It's like a toggle. Okay. So you'll see that quite commonly in this interface. Okay.
Okay. So it
And
looks
then,
like we're about to create the email then.
yes. And just as a side note, anytime you see one of these question marks, it further expands out an explanation for what you're
Yes.
doing. So it's very helpful. And like I said, we want to make sure that you are comfortable with what you're doing. So we go down to create, and again, you get a tooltip that says you're about to create an email address.
And there it is.
There's the new email address. And then you have tools at the end of the line here for managing the email. Okay.
Now, one of the interesting things that I sometimes use, and I have to admit this, is that you'll often be able to pick once your domain is set up, your email set up. If you're thinking, oh, how's this going to work? You can actually turn around and put it in a way of the domain /webmail, and it will give you that user a password option to log into. And that's something we may show you at some stage as well. But this gives us a clear clarity on the size of the file that's available. In this particular instance, we can check, manage, and connect devices, but that may be something that you need to talk to your client about as to how they want to be able to access the emails.
Yeah, I think it's always good to have, like we said before, I think it's always good to have a conversation before you do this with your client and set an expectation, and set some standards. Just set some standards, because sometimes if you're in a bigger company, the C-level executives will need more storage space or need more special options. But I think that if you have, if you open up that for discussion, it's relatively, most of the time, in my experience, and John, please chime in as well. I think that, different roles in the company mandate different, maybe mandate different storage and things like that. But um, do you agree with that?
I agree with that. I think it also you may allow somebody higher up in a company potentially to have storage and also password connections and devices. So some companies will say that senior management can actually access it on different types of devices with different software. Sounds complicated, but may be very relevant that they can access it on a laptop and a mobile, whereas other staff may only be able to access it on one resource. So sounds slightly technical, but it makes a lot of sense once you've had a word with your client.
Absolutely. And I think that with everything that we're showing here, it's just a matter of repetition, and doing this over and over will get you more familiar and more relaxed with it.
Yeah.
It's not that daunting. I think that if you take your time with it, the first couple of times you set this up, you'll just run through it eventually. It's just going to be like things that you do in WordPress that become natural for you. And the anxiety, if you have any anxiety about being in the back end of a server, without with this much easier to understand interface, I think that helps put you at ease.
Okay, so here's a question that maybe you're thinking. You've heard about forwarding and auto response. Brian and I would just like to briefly cover this now. So, again, handing over to Brian as he takes us directly into that area. The redirection may be important if you've got things like info, or you've got a generic email that you actually want it being personally forwarded to one person's account to deal with. So a sales manager maybe have just sales coming through to them rather than giving out his own personal email account to give an understanding of that. Here we have forwarders, um, and as you can see, a number of options in this particular area. We can add domain forwards and add forwarders as two options. Let's have a look at that.
Mm, interesting. It won't let me pick that. Okay, so since that's the only domain, it's only allowing it's defaulting to all domains because there's nothing else to choose. So that's the
Yeah,
default. So
that's fine.
that's why it's not letting me choose that.
Yeah, it's on one. This particular account, as you may well find with your own accounts, this has got its cPanel just specifically for this account. Um, if you have a different operation, Brian and myself obviously have um, deal with multiple email websites, accounts, etc. And so, therefore, your settings may be slightly different, and that's where possibly you ask for help or guidance in those particular areas if that's relevant. But the forwarding option is quite useful because if you have somebody away, for example, you can actually forward emails through their business emails through to their manager so that a manager might be aware of issues or challenges when the individual's away. This is probably common practice for a lot of companies, depending on the circumstances and depending on what they're dealing with. So we know we've got Brian as a email address.
Yes.
And then if we wanted to, for example, forward the email to someone else's email address, you've got a whole bunch of them. You can pick the top one if you want.
Okay.
This instance, I don't mind that.
Okay.
I can. And then we can go to add forwarder.
Do you want to cover the advanced options?
You can do, yes.
Okay. So under you have these triangle drop downs that are sometimes hard to see in the interface, but you have other options that you can put these through. Pipe to a program is a little advanced, and we can definitely talk about that topic if there's interest, but I really just want to concentrate on getting the forwarding done. So basically, you could also forward to a system account.
Yeah.
Again, these are radio buttons. So once you pick a radio button, it takes it off the top one.
Yep.
And you have 4 options here, but you can only pick one. So we're going to pick the top option and forward that to John's Hotmail account. And then all we have to do is click add forwarder.
That's it. It's quite a useful resource, that, isn't it? To actually forward emails. Now, you've got a sales account or a sales or info, and you want people to know that we've got response to that. What we might look for in that particular situation is an autoresponder.
Yes.
An autoresponder, oddly enough, is again in this similar situation. There we go, he's gone directly to it. And we can again set up the autoresponder to go to any of the hour. You can set the hours, but the key thing we want to see here would be to how it's going to be responded to. So we would look at Brian. Brian gets lots and lots of emails coming through to him. It's not his main email. So guess who's going to be responding to it? John ends up with a job, I think. Oh, dear.
So up at the top, it's worth noting that you can set the subject, the from, and email options.
Yep.
They're actually variables that you can set. And sometimes that allows you to prioritize the emails. If you have a form and the form name is between the percent signs, say it would be lead gen. Well, lead gen is very important. Maybe a little bit more important than, some other emails that you get on the account. So you want to give those a priority. And in programs like Microsoft Outlook, you can set up rules based on the subject. Okay.
For anybody using Crocker-Block, you may well find that within the Crocker-Block form section, and also the metadata area, you have these options as well.
You can. There's a lot of use for this type of thing. It's not necessarily apparent to some people, and some people these days don't care for this, but I think it's valuable as long as you don't abuse it. I think there's a lot of power in this, but like I said, you can drop in your percentages for your subject matter, and like I said, you could put lead gen on that. Even if it was a form, you could. I doubled up. There's a lot of options here to explore. Yep. But it's not overly daunting.
No.
There's some things you can do, and if we need to, if we get requests for it, we can always do a deeper dive into that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, folks, this is a basic covering. We're taking it slowly so that you can write any notes down you like or whatever. because there is value in actually understanding what you're actually dealing with behind the scenes.
Exactly. So in the body, this is what's going to happen here is in the body is what is going to be sent. This is the autoresponder piece of that. So you can you can change the from to whatever you want. If you have an info email, things like that, and the subject matter you can change to a default subject matter, um or maybe more common would be a thank you message. I don't
Yeah,
think you need the percents for that. The percentage signs are just for the variables, and then you would put your message in here, and it's a nice way to kind of automate what could be or become a tedious issue, but it's just a way to
engage. That auto response does tell you that your email has actually been received by the person you've emailed, and that could be quite important to people to know that their email's been received.
exactly. And you can do your starts, you can do custom.
Mhm.
um I think that there's power in the immediacy of this.
Yes,
There's a few times when if you were to use this maybe in an email drip campaign, then you could set up the dates and times and things like that. But I think there might be better tools, maybe even within WordPress that you could utilize. But you have, like I said, this gives you more options outside of WordPress, but you can make those decisions as you want. And then
indeed.
of course there's a stop on this. So when you click you create, oh, I need a form. I need a form. We'll go Brian. Okay,
Okay.
and there
And
we
there we
go.
go. We've got the autoresponder. So today's video, we've looked at setting up an email, setting up a forwarder, and setting up an autoresponder. Is there anything you want to sort of conclude with, Brian, from this?
Uh, just that if you see something that we're not covering in these videos, to let us know, and we'll get that done for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you like what you're seeing, and I also hope that you'll subscribe to where you found this content. But the most important thing is we want your response, in your view, what you'd like to see, so that we can help take this forward and work with you to really sort of explore some of this. Thank you
And we
very
can
much
be
indeed for joining us on this particular video. It's been really good to have you. And I'd like to extend my thanks to Brian, who
Thank you.
originally came onto this conversation with, we both see the value in sharing this
Absolutely.
info. And that's how these have all been started. Thank you very much indeed, folks.